Hello and welcome to True Performance. I'm your host, Chris Widener. True performance is the ideal accomplishment of an aspiration, goal, or objective that benefits everyone involved. Here with me today is the founder and creator of True Performance, Zig Ziglar. Zig, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's lots of fun, isn't it?
It sure is. Absolutely.
Good. Hey, let's talk about goals today as it relates to true performance. You know, goals is something that everybody talks about, and yet so very few people actually set them. Why is it that we talk so much about goals, but we tend to be goalless?
Well, I think basically it's because of the way we've been raised and have not been taught. In other words, it's not generally taught in the educational institutions, and therefore people don't really relate to it as something they need to do. And yet it's ridiculous because, you know, if you're going to build a doghouse, you got to have a plan. If you're going to take a vacation, and more people spend more time planning a vacation than they do planning their life, which is a little ridiculous. Yeah. But there's some reasons why people do not set goals. One reason could well be that their image is such, their self-concept, that they don't really think they could accomplish it anyhow, so why waste my time? Another reason they might have is they fear ridicule. If somebody else says, well, is that your goal? You know you'll never make it. A third reason could be is the fact that they've never had any exposure to anybody who had any goals. Fourth one, of course, could be that they've never been taught how do you do it. Yeah. So, yes, there are some legitimate reasons, but I think the image and not having been taught is primarily the thing that will prevent people from really having a goals program. They catch it sometimes by people around them who do have those goals, and they start talking about them. But there's a process you can follow to set those goals. And most people know what they really do want. I've asked this question on every continent in the world: what is it you want out of life? And these things keep coming up. I want to be happy and healthy, at least reasonably prosperous and secure. Want to have friends and peace of mind and good family relationships, and the hope that the future is going to be even better. Now, if that's what people want, and our research clearly shows that is what they want, what you do is you put your thinking cap on. Now, how can I be happy? A lot of people say, well, you can't set a goal to be happy. Well, let me correct that impression just a little bit. Yeah. Do you believe that you can do anything about your health? Well, of course I do. I can take care of it. Well, would that have anything to do with how happy you are? Yeah. Well, do you enjoy making money? Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question. Can you set a goal to make money? Yeah. Well, does your income have anything to do with your happiness? In other words, what I'm getting at is each thing affects your happiness. Sure. And the reality is you can do something about each thing down the line. So what you do is you get that pen and paper out and say, here's what I want out of life. And you make a list of everything you want to be, do, or have. A lot of people say, well, that'll take me 3 days to do that. No, it won't. It'll take less than an hour in most cases. Now, you probably have far too many things on it as a practical matter that you can start working on now. So you take the list again and they say, now, why do I want to have this? Why do I want to be that? Why do I want to do that? And if you cannot answer that question in one straight, simple, short sentence, then you do not have that as a firm wish or desire or goal in your life. Then once you have done that, you reduce that list of things dramatically. Then you choose 3 or 4 of them to start working on immediately. You can't work on everything every day all the time without first getting some training in it and some experience in it. We've developed this little process and have the performance planner that enables you to keep track of everything that you're doing, and that is critically important. And then once you've done that, then you need to ask yourself, now, in order to achieve this goal, I've got to have some help. So who are the people that I can talk with, work with, or follow that will give me some guidance and direction with this? What impact will my mate have on this? What impact will my career, my boss, my manager, my leader have on this? And solicit their help. Now, the interesting thing is most people who, when are asked for help, they're flattered. They want to do it. They'd be glad to help you, and particularly if it's the boss or the manager or the leader. They're delighted to know that they've got somebody working with them who's ambitiously dissatisfied with where they are, and they want to move up the ladder.
Sure.
These are the kind of people that, you know, they really keep their eyes on, because they're always looking for somebody to move up the ladder of success. Now, in the goal-setting world, once you get started, and one of my favorite examples is, I ask an audience frequently, how many of you consider yourself to be honest and at least reasonably intelligent? Well, every hand's going to go up on that one. How many of you honest, intelligent people, as a general rule, get about twice as much work done on the day before you go on vacation? Yeah. Well, everybody laughs, you know, and hold up their hand. I say, okay, how many of you honest, intelligent people then, as a general rule, the night before, the day before vacation starts, you get your laptop out and say, now, here's some things I just got to do tomorrow. I mean, I got to do this and this and this and this and this. And you make a list of them. Now, that's simple, short-term goal setting right there. And then once you've made that list, then you say, in order to get these done, here is what I've got to start with. And so the first thing you do is you've got the plan. Second thing you do, you, in all probability, you show up a few minutes early this time. You immediately get busy on it. You don't say, wonder what I ought to do. You say, hey, I've got a plan, and you get busy on it. And so when you get busy, and the other thing, and here's one of the most fascinating parts of it all, research shows that on a typical workday in the typical corporate world, a minimum of at least an hour a day is wasted in idle chatter, gossip, fiddling around. Now, on the day before vacation, because you've got a plan, when you walk around, and most people will agree that, as a general rule, people with nothing to do want to do it with them. And so instead of letting them kill that minute, just won't take a minute, well, I got to do this first, you know, then they move on. In other words, now, they don't do anything different in their job but except follow the plan. And they avoid those interruptions, because in a typical day, at least an hour is wasted, and most of it not only is not productive, it actually is destructive, because most of the time, or many of the times, they're gossiping, you know, or criticizing or whatever, what's going on. Well, an hour a day is 5 hours a week. That's 250 hours a year. That's 6 weeks of life that is totally wasted, not to be recovered. And I just gave you a half-truth, because you don't talk to yourself during these interludes. You're talking to somebody else. So you double that as a result of that. A lot of time is wasted. I cannot validate this by data, but I'm absolutely convinced that there are many bankruptcies which occur in companies because people don't take the day before vacation attitude approach. Now, since they don't waste that time, what are they doing? They're working more effectively. Now, I'm not talking about running from one task to another. I'm talking about moving with purpose. And when you have that purpose, you just get an awful lot more done. You say you've got a plan. You're convinced you can follow through on it. You're motivated to get it done. You're excited about getting it done. And your effectiveness goes up, because anytime you've got a plan and following that plan, you just get a lot more done. Now, here's some of the interesting little things about this process, followed through on the day before vacation. At the end of the day, you're just so excited and feel so good about yourself. And your self-image is the key to your performance. Feel good about yourself, you perform better. You feel good about what you've done. And on the way home, you're just talking to yourself like crazy. Man alive, what a wonderful day I had. I got so much done, I can't wait to get home to tell the family what I've done. And the bottom line is, when you get home, you simply say to your mate, tell you what, let's do. Let's pack up and start our vacation tonight. And everybody who hears this will know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, on the other side of that coin, is the fact that on the days where you, work hard at trying to fool the boss, or to convince other people that you're doing a good job, if you are the boss, when you try to impress people that, yes, what I'm doing really is important, the reality is on that day before vacation, your performance is so much better that the boss is already watching. And they say, here's the kind of guy, here's the kind of girl, here's the one that we're looking forward to working with, because this is an ambitiously dissatisfied individual who has a plan to do better. At the end of that day, you feel better, you're more energized, you're more excited about your job, you performed a great deal more, and you've got a better chance of promotion. Now, the simple question is, if planning one day can have such a dramatic impact on your performance, just consider what a game plan for life would have on your performance. Second thing is, if you can perform that much better on the day before vacation, why on earth can't you perform that way every day of your life? Now, let me say it again. I'm talking about your plan. I'm not talking about working harder. I'm talking about working with a plan. And when you do that, then the chances of you performing better are dramatically up. And the interesting thing is, it has a huge impact on your home life. And your home life is extraordinarily important in what you do on the job. What happens on the job affects what happens at home. Let me give you a classic example of what I'm talking about. Your relationship at home is so important. Jason Kidd, does that name ring a bell? I bet it does with just about everybody. And a pretty good basketball player.
Very good, yeah.
But about 5 years ago, Jason Kidd was a wife abuser. He went to counseling, solve the problem. That year, he came within a whisper of being the most valuable player in the National Basketball Association. And the next year, he led his team to the final game of the championship and almost won it, and every year since they've been in it. Now, what changed a good basketball player to a fabulous basketball player, a superb player? It's a little word called genius. Now, genius is simply the ability to focus on the issue at hand. When Jason Kidd is on the basketball court, his entire focus is, how can I lead this team to victory? How can I be a better basketball player? When he gets home, his entire focus is, how can I be a better husband? How can I be a better father? How can I be a better man? And what you focus on, you accomplish dramatically easier and more often and more effectively than if you don't have that focus and attention. This works at home. It works on the job. Whatever your career is, I'm not talking about just athletics by any stretch of the imagination. What you focus on, most of us have several different things we do. For example, I write books and make speeches. I also teach on different subjects. And so when I'm on a subject, I focus on that subject. In this series, if you'll notice, we're focusing on the issue that is at hand, what we're talking about at that point. So the goal setting and the plan to reach those goals is very important. So once you've got the goal set of the things you want to be, do, and have, and are working with the people that can help you achieve that, then you need the more specific plans about how can you do it. Well, you start with that day before vacation attitude approach, but then the second thing you do is you start looking at, how can I improve my performance in the other areas of my life. And you need to remember that as you work on your goals, you always go as far as you can see. And then when you get there, you'll always be able to see further. And so many people, I mean, virtually everybody wants to improve either their performance or they want to move up the ladder to get things done. You know, early in another presentation, we talked about what happens when you enroll in Automobile University, but also as you look at the other things that you encounter in your life, the other, the other attitude, not only just attitudes that you have, but the other drives that you have. When you reach one goal, and the research clearly shows this, when you have your goal set in one area of life, then you instinctively, automatically realize as you reach one goal, hey, you know, this would also work in my weight loss goal. Yeah. So let's talk about that just for a minute.
Yeah, talk about weight loss, because a lot of people, I mean, there's a few things that always come up when you think about goals, and one of them is always, hey, how do I lose a little bit of weight?
Absolutely.
Right, so how can we do that so that it's effective so that people can lose weight? You've got some stories about having seen goal setting really help people lose weight, including yourself.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, for 24 years of my adult life, by choice, I weighed well over 200 pounds. I say by choice because I have never accidentally eaten anything. And that's a fact. Yep. And I realized that in weighing well over 200 pounds, I became aware of the fact that at age 45 that, you know, this weight's a little harder to carry than it was a little earlier on. Maybe I should do something about that weight. So I went to the Cooper Clinic, and they put me on a sensible eating and exercise program. Now, up until then, my idea of exercise simply was to fill the tub, take a bath, pull the plug, and fight the current. I mean,
or run to the refrigerator and back.
That was basically it. It really was. And I tried every diet known to man. Tried a 30-day diet and lost a month. But I was committed to it, so I dieted religiously. I mean, I quit eating in church. I did the whole 9 yards. And then one day it just hit me. You know, earthquakes and hurricanes get all the publicity, but termites do more damage than both of them put together. Now, termites take little bitty bites, but there are a lot of termites, and they take a lot of bites. You can experience radical growth or radical weight loss in minute steps. I tried all of those diets, and they didn't work. And then I realized what I needed to do was follow what Dr. Cooper had said, get on a regular exercise program and start eating sensibly. So that's exactly what I did. As I kept score, and the way I started it, when I started my exercise program, the first day, I'll never will forget, I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go do my running. I ran a block. One block, and I'm telling you, at the end of it, I was, you know, but the next day I did better. I ran a block in a mailbox. The next day I ran a block in 2 mailboxes. The next day a block in 3 mailboxes. And I never will forget the first day I ran all the way around the block, and it was a big block. Man alive, I woke the family up and said, guess what Dad has done? One day I ran 1 mile, then 2 miles, then 3 miles, then 4 miles, then 5 miles, and the weight slowly but surely came along. Now, interestingly enough, I was writing my first book, See You at the Top, at that time. And as I wrote the book, it took me about 10 months to write the book, and it took me 10 months to lose the weight. And when it was all said and done, I realized that I'd lost an average of 1 9/10 ounces a day every day during that 10-month period of time. And kind of as a caveat to all of this, as I was writing the book, before the book was even close to being finished, I wrote that I weighed 165 pounds. And I was ready to send it to the publisher, and did send it to the publisher. But I knew in my own heart and mind that if people bought the book and read the story about how I lost the weight, the first time they saw me there, I was huffing, puffing around at over 200 pounds. They'd say, well, I wonder what else Zig lied about, you know. Sure. So I made the decision. I made the commitment. I'm going to lose this weight. I put it in the book, and making that commitment in writing in the book before I had accomplished it is one of the most important things. See yourself as already being there, because the picture you have in your mind about your accomplishment will be a determining factor in whether or not you will get there or not. the picture in my mind was clear. The weight was going to be gone. On one of my trips to the Cooper Clinic, I did something that was not really nice, but I hadn't read Ann Landers at that point, so I did it. You know, she says you're not supposed to steal magazines from other people. Well, there was a magazine in Dr. Cooper's office, and but that was an old magazine. I want to emphasize that. So I tore out a picture in this magazine. The picture was an advertisement for jockey shorts. And Chris, I don't know if you read the jockey shorts ads or not, but if you do, you'll notice one thing. Number one, they don't put jockey shorts on fat boys. So, so I put that picture of the of the fella in the jockey shorts on my bathroom mirror. Every day, I would see it several times. I saw it hundreds of times during the 10-month period. And every time I'd see it, I'd say, that's the way I'm going to look. That's the way I'm going to look. That's the way I'm going to look. Now, I never quite made it there, but I did lose the 37 pounds I needed to lose. And then I realized the same thing that took the weight off will keep it off. And here it is, 5 or 6 years later, or many years later, I'm sorry, and I'm within 5 or 6 pounds of the same weight I was when all of the weight had been gone. Now, why is that so important? One of the things I discovered on the way was that if I virtually eliminated sweets, I could eat anything else I wanted and not gain a single pound. To this day, that's exactly the role I'm following. Now, that doesn't mean I'm totally away from sweets. I still will have an occasional dessert. I used to eat them 2 or 3 times a day, and that's the reason I was carrying all of the weight. Sweets are empty calories, and not only that, but they stimulate more appetite. And so when I stopped that, then that was a big way I was able to keep it on. I keep it off. But now, one of the more important things, too, is this same process I've just described is exactly the same process I used to become a full-time speaker. That had been my dream. I had heard a man named Bob Bale speak, and I'd never seen anybody have so much fun and do so much good. This was 1950. It took me until 1970 to reach the point where I was a full-time speaker. But during those 20 years and all of that time, I was learning things, but I also was seeing things. I had a dream that I had thousands of times, and the dream in my mind was always the same. I was standing in front of huge audiences. They were responding in an unbelievable way. I made the greatest speeches any human being has ever made. I mean, they were absolutely encouraging, fascinating, highly motivated, very enthusiastic, and the audience just sat there utterly astonished that any human being could perform like that. I'm telling you, those performances were absolutely incredible, and every one of them took place in my mind. But until they take place in your mind, they're not going to take place in your life. It took a lot of years. People have frequently asked me, had I gotten discouraged, did I ever think about quitting, you know, and abandoning this goal of being a full-time speaker? The answer is absolutely not. Those with a dream, when they hit the tough spots, those with a dream are the ones far more likely to keep going. Legal immigrants in America are 4 times as likely to become millionaires as are the people who are born here. They leave friends, family, language, culture, climate, just about everything back home. But they bring their dream to America with them. Not only do they have dreams, but the dreams have them. Not only did I have the dream to lose the weight, not only did I have the dream to be the speaker, but that dream had me. In my own mind, I knew that it was going to happen. But when it finally did happen, after all of those years, I got to tell you, the exhilaration was absolutely incredible. How do I keep it going? By doing exactly the same things I did to get there. I still dream about my talks. I still prepare avidly. Even though I've made a talk maybe 100 times, I will spend 5 or 6 hours, even if I did it the day before, going over it, rehearsing it. You see, I think it's arrogant to think that just because you've done something a number of times, you can just pick up the hat and and go do it again. When that arrogance enters your life, then things happen. That's when Buster Douglas knocks out Mike Tyson.
Sure. Yeah.
That's when an expansion team in Houston, Texas beats an established National Football League team from Dallas. You get in trouble when you don't prepare. My fellow speakers frequently say, well, you know, Zig, why do you spend so much time preparing? I always say, because I want to keep going. I'm having more fun today than I've ever had in my life, and apparently the response is still good and the results are still good because I keep getting those letters and those accolades, you know, from people that know me and see me. One of the last things I do, for example, Chris, is and when I'm doing a public seminar, the last thing I show is my picture. And the picture is of me seated at my desk, and there are 3 huge stacks of letters in front of me, over 5,000 of them, literally from all over the world, 99% of them unsolicited. And they talk about people whose lives have been radically changed by following the processes that I'm talking about in this series. In other words, what I'm saying is it really does work. We have letters from people, for example, a soldier in Iraq who had gotten discouraged and was not leading his troops as they felt he should be leading. His parents sent him a set of the tapes containing this information. The troops started listening to it. The confidence was restored, and the bottom line is, yes, indeed, it really does work there. One of the proudest letters we have is we had a lady attend our Born to Win seminar from Portland, Oregon, and she had come to the seminar because she wanted to get the courage to you know, divorce her husband because the marriage was in trouble and obviously it was all his fault. Well, at the end of the seminar, she realized that maybe, just maybe, she had something to do with that trouble. And so she decided that she was going to look at the role she was playing. A few months later, I was in Portland. I had dinner with the couple, and they were just all lovey-dovey because she had recognized the problem that she was having, and they started doing things a little bit differently. I've never seen such a radical change. When you start looking at the things I'm talking about coaches who have adopted the goal-setting philosophy and won a whole lot more games, about people who have taken every facet of their life and you know, followed through on it. This lady from Portland that I'm talking about, I got one of the most thrilling letters I think I've ever gotten very recently, and I'm going to put it in the next book I'm writing about what has happened in their lives since then when they got relationship-driven, recognized that they played a role in everything they did, and they would continue to do exactly that. And the husband was so thrilled that the wife had recognized that, yes, she had some problems too, that she had a role in building the relationship. And the bottom line is that they are very, very happy about it. This one is from Seattle, which is your home, you know. One of the ladies, Debbie McComber, who has written books that have sold over 40 million copies, but she had read this, bought this idea of the goals and all a few years ago, as well as the self-image, and the bottom line is the sale of her books went up dramatically, and the things that happened to her have also affected every phase of her life. A few months after all of this, I had the pleasure of having my wife with me. We had dinner with her and her family, and it was a magnificent occasion, and she still is so excited about life. She is still headed for the top, and I believe she's going to get there. Matter of fact, many people would say she's already there.
So goals can change your life. You figure out what you want to be, do, and have. You write them down. You keep coming back to them. Awesome stuff, Zig. Thanks a lot for sharing all that with us. That's all the time we have for today. I'd like for you, our audience, to remember that your goals are vital to your personal growth, success, and true performance.